Welcome to this video, where we will talk about the movie Thor. We will begin by exploring the movie storyline, summarizing its plot, and discuss the cast and characters. Then we will take a closer look at the film production details and box office performance. Finally, we will share review and audience reaction to give you a well-rounded perspective. Let's get started. Thor a pretty super box office for year. Thor in a first of a line four super films to be released this summer. Bang into theater this weekend and enjoy tournament debut. The 3D movie about the Norse god pounded the competition, crossing a solid $66 million according to an estimate from the distributor Paramount Pictures. The other two new films in the wide release were both romantic comedies about the wedding, and neither could attract nearly as many moviegoers as Thor. Jumping the Brom about two families from the different backgrounds collaborating at a wedding collected a decent $30.7 million. Some things brought based on the Emily Giffen's best-selling novel on the same name had a soft $30.2 million take. Overseas, Fast 5 explained from the 40 to 44 foreign markets and ranked it in the Panama's $86.6 million in the Brazil. Where is it set? The movie Paramount at the number one, taking in the $5 million. Its cultural international total is already near $200 million at the $184.8 million. Following that, the movie Thor was the second big budget studio release in a summer that the many in the industry hope will help. Worse, that has been the bleak year at the box office. The combinations of these two tells from the box office the MCU allow Thor to become a rare fantasy hit. It is at the moment a little easy to take for the granted, just show how authentic the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe has become over the years. It's amazing that the internal spy for the Ross review movie in the history of the franchise still managed to cross $400 million worldwide last year. Even deposit the box office recovery still no have nearly reached its full potential. It is at moment a little easy to take for the grant just how authentic the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe has become over the years. It's amazing that the internals buy for the Rose Review movie in the history of the franchise still managed to cross $400 million worldwide last year, even deposit the box office recovery still not having nearly reached its fully potential, and that's bad result for the Marvel Studios at this point. Yet Captain America the First Avengers was considered a decent success, taking in the $370.5 million back in the 2011. The point is, we have come and the awful long way, and with the release of Thor, Love and the Thunder this weekend, that has become evident. The fourth solo Thor flick is going to easily best the competition at the box office in its opening weekend and will rank as one of the biggest opening weekend since the pandemic began, making even more than Thor Ragnarok did back in 2017. All of this to say, it's amazing what relative can do for the prestations. To that end, 2011 Thor was far from a granted success at the time, even with the MCU beginning to take shape as something moviegoers credit about. Not only become we were not dealing with an A-list superhero at that time anyway, but because blockbuster fantasy movie simply did not have a great legacy of the success. And while Thor is the primarily a superhero movie, it is also very much a fantasy film. Today, in honor of release of Love and Thunder, we are going to look back at the original Thor, how it came to be, how the MCU allowed this fantasy film discussed as a superhero flick to blossom, and what lesson we might be able to learn from it in the modern context. Let's dig in, shall we? In the early days of the Marvel Studio, the company had to make do with what it had. When Iron Man came out in 2008, it was all about trying to take the best movie possible with the characters that were not necessarily as popular in the mainstream at this time. This has become many characters that the Marvel had previously ill-sent to other studios during financial hardship were still elsewhere. The X-Men were still elsewhere. The X-Men and the Fantastic Four where at the Fox, Spider-Man was and still is at the Sony, and Universal still has the rights to make solo Hulk film. The list goes on as such as the idea had to take the pieces on the board and build to the some things that could make for an A-list event in the form of the Avengers. To do what that various individual film franchises would need to be the laugh and success on their own before the groundbreaking blockbuster cover of even could happen in 2012. Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk got things started in 2008 with the Iron Man 2 bring us Black Widow and the Nick Fury in 2010. Thor was the then set to in the 2011 with the Captain America, the first Avenger surviving as the final piece of the puzzle. Later that summer, but the first the God of the Thunder need his day in the sun, even though other the filmmakers had tried to get a Thor film going over the years included none other than the same Raimi. It was the ultimately Kenneth Branagh, known for film like the Mary Shelley, Frank Nan and the much ado about nothing who won the job. As far as casting goes, Marvel cast already net that included Liam Hemsworth, the younger brother of the Chris Hemsworth, who ultimately lanked the cake, a different king of the superhero tale. The thing about Thor is that it was always going to be the ridiculously different than the other superhero films that were having success at this time. The Norse mythology that they ultimately inspired Steen Lee and Stephen Dicto in creating the comic is rooted in some of the oldest fantasy storytelling the world has to offer. This was about the future things from the Batman or Spider-Man that one could imagine. Now it's not hurt that the supporting cast was attacked with the actors like the Natalie Portman and the Anthony Hawking as well as the tiny relative unknown Tom Hiddleston who would go to steal show as the Loki. Still Marvel and the brand were going to be the focus to count with a genre that, historical speaking, was a recap for the failure. It is worth remembering that in 2011, very few films outside of Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Harry Potter and the success in the big budget fantasy realm more than no they beam the part of what made Lord of the Rings such a huge gamble in first place. For example, the same year Thor was released, the 2011 canon, the Barian remark absolutely taken energy is the $63 million worldwide against in the $90 million budget. Heck, even the Hemsworth over the Hestman Winter War would go on to collect a disaster $164 million against $155 million budget in 2016. Fantasy, unlike sci-fi, was not necessarily fertile ground for success in the Hollywood, and the honestly still larger is not. Yet, thank you to the unaccepted success of the Iron Man and Iron Man 2, the MCU was already gigging popularity, and the audience were the aware that the Avengers was set to follow in 2012, not so much to the degree that it is now, but even then these were becoming must-see events for the moviegoers who might no otherwise have credit. As a result, that this film that seemingly had so many iffy ingredients become and the unlucky early hit for the Marvel studio. The financial journey. Thor helped to kick off the summer season on May 6, 2011. It did so with a pretty solid bang, taking in the $65.7 million on its opening weekend, good enough for the number one spot besting Universal Fast 5, which was the returning in second weekend. The film held reasonable well in the coming weeks, setting it up for a nice domestic run that they considered in late August. All told, the fourth MCU flick earned $181 million domestic and the $268.2 million internationally, for a granted total of the $449.3 million against a reported $1.50 million production budget. Now, by the current MCU standard, that number don't look all the great, but the fact that a straight-up fantasy film led by then largely unknown actor managed to make their times its production budget while the other huge hits. Now, by the current MCU, the standard that the number does not look all that great, but the fact that a straight-up fantasy film led by a then largely unknown actor managed to make three times its the production budget while the other huge hits like Patience of the Siberian on Stranger Tides, Bridesmaid and The Hangover Part 2. Well, in theater is the impressive considering that the God of the Thunder have nothing else for the general public to latch onto the at that time. This movie was able to sell itself, especially when coupled with the promise of something bigger to come the following summer. It is also worth pointing out that Thor earned a reported $95 million from the Blu-ray and DVD sales, illustrating that the market for the Annesley revenge was the much better even a decent ago. This success in return helped set up the Avengers for a record-breaking run in 2012, as well as Thor to become a big hit solo franchise in its own right, with the series recently crowning the $200 billion mark worldwide thanks to the early return from the Love and Thunders. Not only that, the Hemsworth Hemsworth Hammer Swimming God became the first MCU hero to have four solo movies under his belt. All of that spring forth some comparatively humble fantasy superhero flick that prove the MCU could safely explore different genres on its way to becoming an all-encompassing multimedia behemoth. The lessons contained within the early days of the MCU are in some ways mysterious in how to build up lot of the goodwill with the movie-going public in an age when franchise and the IP are everything for the studio and the streaming service. It's worth looking back at the movie like Thor, which the embrace that made the characters and the enduring figure in the comic for the decides before he was ever part of a major motion picture. Take your with include with the brightly revamped This the Particles franchise with the irrelevant Rank Gog in 2017. But the Bring first film deserve credit for the being earnest and the embracing that the characters that was on the page. You can't really get to that fun revelations without first having the classic version of the characters on scene. Thor, as well as Iron Man and the Captain America, the first Avengers, fully embraced the speech of the characters as they were, understanding that the Marvel comics and the Bean telling great story for the decide. If that spirit could be the capture in a new medium, it's time to lesson that more journal moviegoers might respond to the material. At the same time, the studio managed to place fans who had been embarrassing these characters for years, who perhaps never thought they would. See Loki and the Hopkins a part of the big budget Hollywood blockbusters, as franchise and the IP continue to get recycled by the everyone out there making content. It's worthy remembering this the simple lesson do right by the characters. I mean, we have here Sony plans to make some pretty radical change to Kevin for it's the Craven the Hunter movie. Is that a good idea? Time will tell, but that's exactly the sort of thing I am thinking about. Why bother making a Deadpool movie if you can't let Deadpool be the Deadpool X-Men Origins? Voliner friends Deadpool did not. Thor's success and the part with the way for something bigger by the being faithful to word made the comic great. That's not to say the adaptations need to be as the selflessly devoted to the source material as something like Zack Snyder and the Watchmen movie, but don't run away from the words on the page. That's why HBO Watchmen show works so well it managed to honor what came before while failing true to that hugely important source material. This to me is a lesson inherent in the success of Thor and the MCU in the journal. Every MCU post-credit sequence ranked from the worst to best. Audience have been the trained like the Palef pups to sit through the credits after each installment of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. If you get up and leave before every grip, everything, company, and song on the soundtrack has been listened, you might even be openly mocked by the thoughts still glued to their chairs. See, Marvel Studio has made and the art from out of the mid-credit and the post-credits teasers. Some MCU films have just one the scenes at the very end of the credits. Others have survival spring out thoughts, but they almost all have them. Only one film so far, Avengers Endgame, does not have the some kind of the post-credit these. A good credit scenes should promise something for the future. It can be a cliffhanger, but they could not negative the end of the movie. It should stand alone, meaning in the plot of the film. I just a good credit scenes should promising something for the features. It can be a cliffhanger, but they should not negate the end of the movie. It should stand along, meaning the plot of the film. I just watch should not depend on it. It can also just be a funny scenes like a tag in a sitcom as long as the Joker lands. Let's go through heavy singles. One of the Marvel post-credit scenes, the good, the bad, and the truly bizarre. This does not include any tease from the Marvel television show, but does include the two teasers at the end of the Shang-Chi and the Land of the Ring. So yes, there are the spoiler ahead. Let's start with the less than the great, the one that makes you roll your eyes. The PSAS, which the Hurricane back to the Captain America crony USO days, were great in the context of the film, but they leave the fourth wall breaking to the Deadpool. This one goes a little too mad with the Stephen Roger telling us that the sometimes waiting leads to the disappointment. I did not like being a funny of the first thing through the credits. You tough us to do this. Marvel, we have learned it from the watching you. At this point, Josh Brolin had the appear as Thrawn in post-credit days and is the same with the other antagonists so often that he no longer felt threatening. Stop testing us and do some things. And do the dang things. Already nobody like a backseat driving supervillain. 40 teenage Groot, Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 2. It's a dad joke, not the fun kind. We get it. Kids love their the pawns. Groundbreaking of the 5 success attached to this film credit. This one is the most annoying. The ones that are just scenes from the future film. The thriller for the Avengers that they play at the end of the Captain America, the first Avengers. Enough said. It is just a slightly different angels and the extent cut on the famous cap, punching back scenes that leads into a trailer for the Avengers when the film was released. Seeing footage from the big first team up was exciting, but ultimately it is not a true post-credit teaser. Fine Bunky Ant-Man. This one is an out of the context scenes from Captain America Civil War. It's also a little Jerry as one end credit scenes because technical it takes place from the final scenes of the film in the same. Wilson recruits Scott Lang for the team cap. The audience does not know what Sam and Stephen are talking about when they mention the accounts because we have not seen Civil War yet. All it really takes was that two final found Bucky and that Ant-Man would probably be in the next Captain America movie. Thor meets with the Stephen Stranger's Doctor Strangers. This scene later pops up in Thor Ragnarok, but this one the sequel ahead from the repost sequence that the concluded Ant-Man simply because the bear gag is pretty funny. Still, what exactly is this the testing that the Doctor Strange is kind of the nosy and the middlesome? We just saw a whole movie about that. The ones that are kind of the forgettable. Tony Talks the Journal Ross, The Incredible Hulk. This one is more interesting in the retrospect, both because the trio's Ross has taken on a larger role in the MCU and become it's the confirmed that Bruce Banner and the Abby Blank have received a variation on the super soldier serum. It's cool to see that Tony antagonist's relationship with the Rose is a thread that he carries over from the very beginning. However, it's also a report the first post credit scene featuring Sam L. Jackson's and the Third King of Boring. Sticker Oh God Can gets back together Guardians of the Galaxy Wall. Story to Sylvester Stallone. But who are these people and why do they matter? Michael Seo, who also appears in the scenes, has already been recast as one of the lessons in the Shang-Chi. I am willing to be proven wrong by the horrible, beautiful mind of the Jam Khan, but I debut we will see these characters again in either Guardians of the Galaxy Vol. 3 or the upcoming The Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special. Station Lee visits the Watcher's Guardians of the Galaxy 2 World. Like the scene at the end of The Incredible Hulk, this might be more important now scenes. What if utilize the Watchers as a storytelling device? But other than that it's what very memorable. It also might have been the reconnoted scene the what if characters calls himself the Watchers. This scenes has three. The ones that are a little frustrating. Post-credit scenes with the animal doing funny things usually play pretty well, but this one that raises more questions than it answers about the Infinity Stone and the ghost whereabouts. Thor and the Jenny Smoch on a roof. Thor, the Dark World. I had to from on the MCU better kisses, but Jans has not been since is that the credit scene, so what the point of the getting involved in their romantic renew? The broke up of the camera, guess we will find out in the Thor, Love and the Thunder when Jenny returns in a major way. About damn time, she says. Sure, the scenes was just a copy of the Rudy Next Time moments in the Iron Man, and as a girl power moments, it feels forced and the cheap. Her there, the emotional arc in the film deserve more than this is as a baton. I would be so mad if I spent and the interior movie trying to convince my dad that I was worthy of his the precious technology only to find out that he had a suit in the closet that fit me the whole time. The one stone that are kind of distressful. A ship intercepts the Guardians as they roar to Earth. Thor Rancor. For once, I would like Thorns to show his the face in an ad credit card scenes. His ship does not mean anything unless you know what's coming, and these scenes are disposed to tease rather than show us what we already know. We are supposed to wonder if Loki surrounded this ship since he worked with the Thomas in the past. It's so unclearly. It's more of a punctual that a teasy and stressful because Dark might seriously be hard. However, I think it's a welcome comedic moments after Yodo emotional domestic bum as all out of us all out. The living is being mind controlled by the Loki Thor. This scene is pretty good, actually introduce some real shake and a good amount of the mysterious, but fans of this living had to wait until the Avengers to find out what happened. Poor guy's living has had a time of it ever since Thor came into his life. The ones that have some good things going. Tony Theatre session with the Dr. Banner Iron Man 3. I like the scene's prose, energy, and the reveal that the voice-over narrations we have been hearing the whole time has been Tony talking to Bruce. But the Mark Ruffalo's very not Bruce Banner here take me right out of it. It's like he filmed this one a launch break from the another project. The spooky first look at the Wanda and the Priota. Good it always fun to meet a new characters in a credit days, but avoiding the M word by the refunding to the age of the Michaels, a concept that he never returns to the MCU bad guy, many years contract and the corporators. Many years contract and the corporators. The spooky first look at the Wanda and the Petria. Good, it's always fun to meet a new characters in a credit these, but avoiding the M word by the referring to the age of the Markles, a concept that the never returns to the MCU. That many years contract and the corporate moviegoers later Marvel is still avoiding the formal education of the mutants. This is just a weekend. It's basically just baby Groot dancing with the aunts. Liu love aunt right. Shang-Chi's sister stepped into her father's shoes. The evocations were the rank things. Will Dutton flash across the screen. The only reason this is not higher is because it's not yet clear if Shangling is going to be a friend or few. If it's the latter, that a lot of the girl boss villain we are getting in past 4, the ones that offer a more stable peek at what's coming. Becky arrives in the Walkers, Captain America Civil War. Plot wise, this could have been in the email. However, the first look at the country we explore more in the Black Panther is really lovely. It seems to know that's the only it's the Becky deprogramming in safe hands, but that all really is the forgiving between Stephen and the Chol. Shuri speak with the White Wolf, Black Panther, the reveal of the Bucky gorgeous mean and the half-up bun. However, intentional Black Panther really mention other the Marvel characters, so this is a good reminder that the citizens of the weekends are the connect to the larger MCU. The post-credit scenes check in the Bunky as often as they check in on Thorns, maybe even more. But when it's come to Bucky, we always welcome good news. Two villains meet in jail Spider Man, Homecoming. The Vultures and the Scorpions have yet to return to the MCU, but with all the rumors swirling around Spider Man No Way Home, as well as Venom Let There Be Change and the Morbius, this is one to keep in mind. Never count out Peter's Park, Rogel's Gallery, this one that are a little bit strange. Mordo takes away Jothan's Pantbond powers Doctor Strange's. We have not seen the payoff with the Mordo yet, so were to say whatever or not this scene is the relevant. He has not made good on his too many characters promising yet, but the multiverse of the midness is just around the corner. These scenes work mindly because it's fun to see the turtle edgy for breakbad, and it's the always good to see the benchman Brad. I am always here for more Jeff the Goldblum and these the Chato characters. Here's to hoping he shows up again. He's evil, but they understand the assignment. Just when you think the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the scare to make it the weird, they do something like this. Synth green surprise camo in such a treat, the cherry on the top of and the already fair and the hilarious film of all things set up in the many Guardians of the Galaxy World 2 post-credit scenes. Aisha going full, the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and the creating the perfect man has to be the most intriguing. What here are they going to cast to play Adam at this point? Who left? The ones that give you answer. Thorne's introduction is pretty ominous and the unforgettable. It's a defined oh shit moments which always work for a credit test. However, in retrospect, it's a little bit of a bumper on a technical. Thorne smiled when his the associate says that the challenging Earth would be like countering death. Resemble because in the comic Thorne's literally dead, the character's death would never appear on screen. The Snap Catch Up, Team Pie, Ant-Man and the Wasp. Remember Black Widow was not the first MCU movie to be released out of the Chronicles order in the Scare timeline. Ant-Man and the Wasp take place before the Infinity War, so the post-credit scenes was the essential to let us remember Black Widow was not the first MCU movie to be the release out of the chronological order in the Scare timeline. Ant-Man and the Wasp take place before Infinity War, so the post-credit scenes was the intentional. So let us know why from the Ant-Man crew got the snap. It was and the upsetting reminder that the blip happened, but the fact that Scott and the Master and was safe in the codename realm gave us clue as to how the Avengers were going to save the day. Carol meets the Avengers and he demands to know what happened to Fury, Captain Marvel. Like previous scenes, this was Infinitely War. Treasure promised some the action we went into the end game, remembering that the while Infinity War felt like the biggest cover even of the all time, the Avenger was still missing some key players, the one that they grab your attention. Wall gives the Yellen and the assignment at the next year grave, Black Widow. Valentine, what is the Nick Fury but the evil internals into the Marvel Cinematic was dispelled by the Falklands and the Winter Soldiers, and the fact that this scene step up potential conflict for a Destiny Plus the series rather than a film is less than thrilling, but I cannot that a good cliffhanger. We do not actually think Yeltsin is going to do some things the assistant client brought in right. We learned that the Mysterious was not the only on fooling Peter Park. The really Fury is in space and the Thalls is down on the earth pretending to be him. The weight word factor in these scenes and the potential for a fully scale adaptation of the comic scenes. Invention storyline are both very exciting. Pulse Bean, Madeline's is the dead light funny at the Thalls. Even paint green, it is like a treat to see him. Binecon tell Thor is one of the Marvel widest and the most welcome performance. From the moments that the Olivia life point appear as the Kana, you know some things upshot is about to happen. The collector is the immediately both untrustworthy and the captivating. We also learn from these scenes that the more that the characters is looking to unlike the Infinity Stone, the saga continue. The mid-credit scenes in the Marvel most recent film has the everything, which is why it's credited the top 10. Its board speak the questions about the basis for why is Bruce Banner not Professor Hulk out? Where is the Captain Marvel going? What to do the Avengers with the rights? And it's the end with a laugh with the Wong join, Shang-Chi and the Katy 4 and the irresponsible night for the Carol Rock. It's tell things for a features but it leaves the audience more executed than the sting out chaffy kisses. It's a very simple moment and the controversial if you are the against Peter Parker having stuttered touch by the Tom Holland still it. Bunky visits the Halloween Command's deposal at the Smith, Captain America the Winter Soldier. This scene is quiet and gives us a little hope from the features when you think about it. The Captain America movie and the television show us Smithen as a plot device a lot. The press conference did not really get anything juicy up in the MCU, but it's a really nice scenes that show how the Kella and the Weekends have changed after the events of the film. Kilmore maybe have been the defiant, but he did make and the impact. Proof of the multiverse or proof that no other actors can bring these iconic characters to life. These scenes in which Jameson's play an Alex Jones type and not only becomes Spider-Man of the murder but reveals his identity. It's a verger of a character's introductions, a shot of the nostalgia right to the feels and a Clifford riddles into one. Who could have asked for anything more? Call me, beep me if you wanna reach me. Captain Marvel officially joined the MCU as a symbol on a retold beeper. This teaser's era on the stateful side because we see Maria Hill and the Nick Fury vanish, but as will the beeping of the hope. After so much dusting, it was a chilling moment in a good way, not a bad one. Constellations find the Thor hammer Iron Man 2. Say what you will about the movie itself, but the post-credit scenes gets you hyper for what next. This is when the MCU really start cooking with the gas using these little teas to keep it the moments going on. The ones you will never forget. 3 Baby Groot dance, Guardians of the Galaxy. Before Baby Yoda captured our hearts, there was this little guy. It's rare that a mid-credit scenes spends its own twice and the merch. That's the power of a tiny tear, a great song, a wine diesels. To gang stop for the Shevim, the Avengers. This scene is absolutely nothing but encapsulates everything that is good about the MCU. It's six different people coming together to eat the same meal in six different ways. You don't love these scenes because of the plot, you love it because of the characters. Nicky Fury has an idea Iron Man. Every time there are the complaints about how Marvel show and film are just leading into the next thing, I have to laugh. That's what the MCU has always been about. You did not sign up for truly stand-alone film ever since Nick You for a walk to take to Tony Stark about the Avengers Infinity. This cinematic universe has been for regions, connections between film and the revealing a larger world you mile age may vary on how successful those connections have been, but it's the possible that we have forgotten how magical and the enacting that the first post credit scene was. The Simu Liu show to watch after Shang-Chi and the Land of the Ring. Simu Liu fights his way into a big screen blockbuster this weekend with the Marvel Shang-Chi and the Legends of the Ten Rings. And if you leave that film thinking, when you can, I see more of that had some fellow. I have the perfect answer. Kim's convinced. The candidates taken has often been the complete to another show for the great with the North Sketch Creek and the perhaps that all you need to know. But if you want a few more details on the Kim convents, stick around. What is the Kim convents? Based on the play Kim Convents by the Einstein, Kim the Convents, the TV show was developed by the Institute and the Kevin White and the premiered on the Canada CBC television in 2016. The series stars Paul Simu Liu, Andrew Peng, and the Nicola Power and explore the generations tensions between immigrant parents and their the candidate-born children and was inspired by the Chewy experience growing up in a Korean family in the Toronto. The Kim family are the Korean candidate convent store. Immigrating parents and their the candidate-born children and was inspired by the Chewy experience growing up in a Korean family in the Toronto. The Kim family are Korean candidate convent store owner who have worked hard to give their now 20-something children Janet and Jung a better life in the Canada. Simu Liu characters is a young Kim who work at the handy car rental where he is the promoted to assistant manager at the beginning of the series but returns to his the former job after an attempt at the moving to another company is discarded. He was a rebellious teenager who had the engaged in pretty street crime, earning him a brief stint in the job line detonations but has since cleaned up his act. He was kicked out of the family home by Mr. Kim after stealing from him and the remains estranged from his father, though he is still in contact with the rest of the family and the guardians recognized with his the father. Engage his pretty street crimes, earning him a brief stint in the Joveland detonations, but has since cleaned up his act. He was kicked out of the family home by Mr. Kim after stealing from him and the remains estranged from his father, though he is still in the contact with the rest of the family and the guardian recounts with his the father over the course of the series. The show ran for the 5 seasons with the 65 episode total. Where can I watch Kim Convents? All 5 seasons are currently streaming on Netflix. Here is in the USA. The show came to close with the season 5 and it did not end on the best terms, at least according to Sim Liu in June of his year. The actor took to social media to say that the yellow can't be safe. It was not cancelled in a traditional manner by a network after poor ratings. Our producer who also own the Kim Convents IP are the ones who chose not to continue. Some fans of the show wonder if the series was ending because Leo was about to make the leap to Hollywood, but the actor dispels those noting scenes. I want to be a part of these 6 seasons. I have heard a lot of the speculation surrounding myself, especially about how getting a Marvel role meant I was suddenly to Hollywood for the candidate TV. This could not be the furthermore the truth. I love this show and the everything it stood for. I saw frustrated how profoundly it impacted families and it brought people together. That said, Leo did have some complaints, starting that he was growing increasingly frustrated with the way May characters was being portrayed and the somewhat related was also increasingly frustrated with the way I was being treated and that the show writing from black, both East Asians and female representations and up pimples to introduce deserved talents. Liu also added that aside from the co-creators in Stew, there were no other Korean voice in the room, and personally, I did not think he did enough to be a champion for those voices, included ours. When he left without so much as a goodbye nod to the cast, he left no portage, no dependent learner, no Korean talent that they could have to replace him. I know that sounds like the show had a lot of the problems behind the scenes, but the show itself is much loved by fans. And if you are looking for more Simu Liu, it's the best place to start. Shang-Chi star Simu Liu credited hysterical when he was cast as a superhero. The early buzz for the Shang-Chi and the Legends of the Rings give us the MCU film high praises across the board, included for the movie star Simu Liu in the lead up to the September 3 premiere. Liu started what it's like behind cast a superhero and what that means for kids who are like him. With the great power comes great responsibility. In an interview with the Total Film, Liu shared how he reacted when the Marvel head Hanko, Kevin Feige, let him know they cast him as a Shang-Chi. I reacted by the carrying his stickers into my pillow, he said, going on to the admit to put a lot of weight on his the shoulders. It's certainly quite a bite of the pressure, I have to say. With the great power comes great responsibility. In an interview with the Total Film, Leo shared how he reacted when the Marvel head Hanko, Kevin Feige, let him know they cast him as the Shang-Chi. I reacted by carrying his tickles into my pillow. He said, going on to admit it put a lot of weight on his the shoulders. It's certainly quite a bite of the pressures. I have to say, I love superhero movie growing up. I love Spider Man, Superman, Batman, but I was always keenly aware that people who look like me could not look like that. Liu went on its the articles to share that he thinks the movie will mean for the other of the Asian descents. It's a beautiful and exciting new origin story for these characters that a lot of the world has not heard of before, and it means that kids growing up today will have that. I did not wish are characters that are aspirations that also reflect their life experience. A huge thing for many around the world. During the Red Captures premiere yesterday, Liu touched again on this aspect of the movie with the correspondent Eric Ashels in an emotional moment with the Shelley. The two shared how they yearn for a movie like Shang-Chi when they were younger. It's a huge thing. Ishi said Liu, they are going to be kids. During the Red Capture premiere yesterday, Liu touched again on this the accept of the movie with the correspondent Eric Ashels in an emotional moments with the Ashley. The two share how they yearn for a movie like Shang-Chi when they were younger. It's a huge thing. Ishi said to Liu, there are going to be kids looking up to the screen and saying, oh, he looks like me, I can be a hero. Liu agreed with the issue. That's certainly the hope. He's the response. I think you did agree with me. We did not have that the growing up. Liu went on to say that everyone can relate to the struggles his characters go through in the film. I think the struggles between constantly feeling like you are between two worlds and that you don't try belong in either. I think regardless of what Your nationality is a where you came from, what the language. What language you speak. I think you are going to watch this movie and feel the reality of that. Sidnet Prescott and the Ghostface are true start of the Scream financials. Melissa plays Sam and the Jenna Ortage there the character help to the users in a new era of his the horror franchise upon being introduced in 2022 Screams. Knife compels Sidney Prescott was more of a minor play there, surviving to connect the film to the past and giving it that true legacy sequel feel. Scream VI may have proof that the franchise did not lead. For better or the worse, having suddenly it out Scream VI only to have her returns for the first time since Scream 4 helped make this the movie a big deal to Scream's divorce. This is the trend and the frame that the certainly reminds that the star of is the property just as much as the ghost face. Yet, what's unique is that the ghost face is never the same person, so that mystery is part of the franchise appeal. The being cases discovering that the identity of the Ghostface killer in the Scream 7 was the hugely important to fans, as was seeing Sidney back in the action. That's not to suggest that Screaming cannot move beyond Sidney and the Ghostface. It will the eventually have to in the order to survive beyond another sequel. That's not suggest that the Scream can't move beyond Sydney and the ghost face. It will eventually have to in the order to survive beyond another sequel or two. But it's the crystal clear that the Sydney and the ghost face are the anchor that have kept this franchise alive for this long. Having Sydney returns to once again sequel of with a mask killer meets Scream 7, a cinematic event because she was absent in the Scream VI. This greatly simply made this sequel matter even more. Deposit the message behind why she was the last time and why both Sam and the Tara are not here this time. More on that in a minute. Scream has become a multi-generations horror franchise. There are people now who are in their late 30s, early 40s who remember when Boss Gravel Screams helped save the slasher genre in the 1996. It was the invention and it was a very big deal at the time for them. Scream 7 is very much a nostalgia picture that seems suddenly Prescott back in the drive seat, doing some things family in an attempt to catch the last ghost face killer. That's a big part of this the sequel early success. However, Paramount did not get this the movie to nearly $100 million on opening weekend without the younger generation as well. Scream and the Scream VI introduce new characters and playing into the Gen's Z tropes help build a bridge to the newer generations of the horror movie fans. As a result, this the latest installment play like a True Blue Legacy sequel, not the terribly unlike built a bridge to the newer generations of the horror movie fans. As a result, this the latest installment play like a True Blue Legacy sequel, not the tribally unlike the juicier world that were for fans from the multi generations. If that the Hollywood has the cast for what a decide, but it always easier said than done. Great franchise find a way to the transcend the generation that made that franchise a success in that the first place. The Star Wars prequel trilogy become the de facto Star Wars moving trilogy for the young millennials and the Gen Z fans. Similarly, Star Wars sequel trilogy nostalgia wave is now upon us, which will be driven by younger Gen Z Zero who saw The Force Awakens when they were children. Scream has managed to connect to the younger fans in a few ways. Other long-running properties have it. It's nothing if not impress. Online controversy did not hurt Scream 7 in the real world. There was a lot of the conversations around what went down behind the scenes in the lead up to his the movie release, namely the fighting of the Melissa Bruria, who plays Scream in the previous two Scream sequel, as well as the subsequent departure of the Jenny Ortage, who play her sister Tara. what went down behind the scene in the lead up to this movie release, namely the writing of the Melissa Boria, who plays Sam in the previous two Scream sequel, as well as the subsequent departure of the Jenny Outrage, who play her sister Tara. They were the new star of the franchise, and without getting into the ins and the out of the what exactly led to their departure, it was the messy Scream 7 had to scrap its the original God's face plans after the Bracey was felt. That alone was the tricky. This led to a lot of take online about the boycotting the movie and even protect Adley's premiere. Scream 7 also lost director Christopher Lando, who described it as a nightmare's job if one were to truly believe the online characters surrounding this movie. This opening weekend would come as the nothing if not a shock, but this is yet another example. Describe it as a nightmare's job. If one were to truly believe the online characters surrounding this movie, this opening weekend would come as the nothing if not a shock, but this is yet another example of how controversies largely discussed on the internet don't have a lot of real world impact for better or worse. That's been proven true time and time again. There are much larger discussions to be had around that happen with the barrier as well as what happened with the Never Campbell on Scream VI. I am not saying it right or wrong that the majority of people don't seem to care about any of these. They just wanted to see a movie, so they did not. What happens in the coming weekend almost certainly won't be the own good or bad to online characters either. It's all about receptions and how people react to the film. For as much ink is the split that you might have one believe otherwise in a lot of ways. Seems a movie, so they did. What happens in the coming weekends almost certainly won't be on good or bad to online characters either. It's all about reactions and how people react to the film. For a much ink is the split that they might have one belief otherwise. In a lot of ways, it's really that the simple. Scream 7 is in the theaters now. Scream brand picked the Halter Man review Thor. While I suppose Fast 5 has declined, the early bright title of the film that the kick off the USA 2011 summer movie season. Thor is starting off that will be a summer heavy with the superhero film. The question of the everyone mind its will. It's starting thing of that bang or the vampires. Overall the story is pretty straightforward. Thor is the favorite son of the Odin over brother Loki. Thor is not shy about his the position's poor self-esteem is not one of these the problems. He despises his father brings danger to the he disobeys his father brings dangers to the Asgard is the banish and must somehow become worthy in order to regain his place and power in the kingdom. Banish means sender Thor carries Hemsworth to Earth, especially to the outskirts of a very small town on New Mexico and into the company of the Jenny Foster. Jenny is an the astrology who reach lies outside the mainstream. She has a bite of a free speech for a scientist. Working with the here is a veteran scientist played by the Stellan's Skaegard and a younger annoyingly goofy assistant played by the Kate Dennings. They come upon the relatively deep power Thor and cannot seem to the spirit themselves from his the company. Thor's arrival was followed by that of the mighty Mjolnir. He is the magic imbued, or here in the film more science than the magic. Hammer Mjolnir comes to the attention of the SHIELD and our favorite man in the Black Agents Coulson. Mjolnir can only be the lifted used by those who are the worthy and due to his the behind cast our Thor is not able to the retrieve it from the compound surrounding it. Meanwhile, his brother Loki, Tom the Hiddleston, is in the Asgard and up to the non-good. He eventually delivers a message to Thor that leaves our the erstwhile hero completely disheartened and the register to his fate to live out the rest of life as Meanwhile, his the brother Loki is in the Asgard and up to the no good. He eventually delivers a message to Thor that leaves away the arrest while hero completely disheartened and he resigned to his the fate to live out the rest of his life as a mere mortal on the earth. The film has two very distinct personalities. Asgard and the Celtics realm and the Earth's especially small town New Mexico. When the film is in the Asgard and the points behind it is the completely engaging and the escrossing complaints about how silly the customer's armor look in the really photos will the vanish as they look like. When the film is in the Asgard and the points beyond it is the completely engaging and the engrossing complaints about how silly the customer's armor look in the early photo will the vanish as they look like they completely belong. While there are is a bite of the humor, there is no the tough in the check to be the found in these awkward locations and I for one was very thankful for that. Asgard is where the movie really shines, and it is there that the town has stunts and Loki steals our steals. Director Kenneth Branagh's performance from his that is very fan from a must-make traveling villain. He is not just the conflicted, you can actually be tempered to take his side, deposit the dark path the he follow. He just does an amazing job and will the probably be a lot of the folk favorite characters from the film. Anthony's Hopping is and the regal and the powerful as ever, and when early on he puts Thor in his place, you will feel like the maybe you should that stuck the heek up. You should shut the heek up and the never attention as well. Anthony Hopkins is as the regal and the powerful as ever, and when early on he puts Thor in his place with a mighty below, you will feel like the maybe you should shut the heck up and the pay attention as well. Ray Stephen as the Bulby Warrior. Was stage is the night, unrecognizable under all that bot and hair but he plays the by-stream soldiers well and with a touch of fun. Jamie Alexander is a believable family warrior, and the Ecorite herself well, playing it strong while still seeming a lady. A contender for the favorite characters in the film will be the Idris Elba as the Hamidals, the Skentry and the gatekeepers of the Asgards. He is not on the screen very long, but he is a comedian presence every time he appears. He has a regal noble forever scenes about him that he commands and holds your attention and you will be the wishing be made more scenes time in the movie. And then we have the part of the story that takes place on the earth. This is where the trademark Marvel movie hammer was the injected into the film, and for me, much of it was the overall goofy and the overuse. There were a couple of the funny moments that were a bit more the restraint that I enjoy opposite drink scenes between the Hemsworth and the Skarsgård was the short subtitle and the quite funny. The tone for the hammer in the film was set right from the opening which had he me the growing and the consider for what might come during the course of the movie. I found the opening scenes semi-hilarious. Imagine a Trendo characters waiting to drive right into the Trendo that also has the lighting stunts happening inside and the sopomotric hammer brought to the first few scenes. Concurrency of the dining characters left me cold. All thought the audience I was with the seems to enjoy it. Things went out every time, thankfully, but still, part of the movie that took place on the earth left me the yearning for a return to the Asgard. To his characters, Caris Hemsworth did a fine job playing the surprisingly around Thor, around even without his the superpower. He softened by the end of the film, a bit too suddenly I think, but he was the believable on the both side of the personality shift. He was very charming, even his the character's arguments. Natalie Portman did not really have a lot to do here, and the seems like the could have been play by the most any attractive younger 30 seemingly attracts nothing really out of note in her performance than the aged she really was give much to do. Asgard interiors look amazing, although the exteriors look a title to Warwar's vehicle for the mighties. The design they come up with the for Rambo Bridge was the both impressive. You try making a Rambo Bridge real and the effective. Another great design was that of the gateway, very visually interesting in both appearance and the function. Jothans, the plant of the forest, giants was the approximately worst and the Barian. Although the monsters creatures scenes in the trailers look a bit CG-ish. There were the multiple battles throughout the film to keep action levels stilled. Although the final battles on Earth seem a bit disappointment, the earthy battle with the forest giants from the Jothans and a final phase of in the Asgard are the pretty damage epic, especially in the former. You definitely get a sense of the incredible of the power Thor. If I have any complaints, it's that the fight scenes were shot in that the ever unknown closer in super copy adding style. The darkness in some of the scenes compound with the darkening of the 3D glasses effect made me some of it look extremely murky. Speaking of 3D, while I think the concept of the post production 3D is the tribal, if you are going to make a 3D movie, shoot is using 3D cameras. I did not see any of the usuals tailored signs of the after the fact 3D back of and the actor head floating apart from his face. The look of 2D layers spread by the artificial depth. etc. On the other hand, learn nothing much here to make his the word seeming in the 3D if you scenes it. 2D I recommend you just do that the inside. For the Marvel fans, the appearance of the Germany runner has the hacky in the film seems superfluous. It was there more as a tie in the Avengers movie and as a little. For the Marvel fans, the appearance of the Jamie Renner as the Hackfree in the film seemed superfluous. It was there more as a tie in the Avengers movie and as a little Easter egg for you. Yes, they did incorporate their the alter ego Donald's Black into the film and the offhand and the creative way. And I will not spoil for you. Thor used his the hammer and whatever it made use of the Mjolnir in the comic. Overall, Thor was a very enjoyable ride that the combined epic actions and the scenery, but not at the expense of the letting the audience get to know some great characters. Right now, I did say this is the probably the second best Marvel production superhero. Thor was a very enjoyable ride that the combined epic action scenery, but not at the expense of the letting the audience get to know some great characters. Right now, I did say this is the probably the second best Marvel production superhero movie behind the first Iron Man. If you want to talk freely about the film without worrying about spoiling it for the others, please head on over to our the Thor spoiler discussions. 10 most twisted MCU characters in the Thor movies. The MCU that delivered countless iconic characters over the years, but the Thor franchise has the underutilized some of its most complaining figures. While the carries Hemsworth, Thor has grown into a standout figure. Many of his the supporting characters have been the sideline, mishandled or the right in our interior. This the recurring issue has been the frustrating as some of the MCU timeline most beloved or the intriguing characters have failed to the live up to their the potential. Whatever is due to the limited scenes time, poor writing, or and the imbalance in the storytelling, these characters deserve better treatment. Thor's solo film have been a mixed bag, ranging from the Shakespeare drama of the Thor 2011 to the comedic inroads of the Thor Ragnarok 2017 and the plagiarizing spectacles of the Thor Love and the Thunder 2022. While these the tonal shifts have kept the series fresh, they have also contributed to and the unvain handing of its the sporting characters. Thor Words is the film with rich lore, complaining allies and the den over fuse instead of the capitalizing on their the potential. The film often focused narrowly and Thor himself leaving a trail of the underdeveloped characters in their wake. Idris Elba Hamlin in a textbook example of the wasted potential as the all-seeing, all-hearing guardians of the brief. Hamlin could have been a pivotal figure in the Thor journey. His unique power and close ties to Asgard made him an essential ally, but the film really gave him the spotlight he deserved. Deposit Alba, comedian screen's presence. Hamidel was often relegated to the sidelines, serving primarily as a stationary plot device, liner at the brief to transport characters between realism. In Thor Ragnarok, Hamidel's role expands slightly as he adds Asgard resident against Heli, but even this was a small fraction of his the potential. His death in the Avengers Infinity War was powerful, but the ultimately and corporations given his the importance to the Asgards and Thor franchise. For an actor for the LB Krybers and a characters with the such the mythology significance and the MCU treat of the Hamdel is a glimmering mistake. Christopher Gore and the God Buncher was one of the most anticipated villain in Thor, Love and the Thunders, but the final produce was the division in the comic. Gore is a deeply complex character driven by the personal loss and the right house. Buncher was one of the most anticipated villains in Thor, Love and the Thunder, but the final produce was the reversal in the comic. Gore is a deeply complex character driven by the personal loss and the right thoughts, anger against the gods. Blee Portals captures glimpses of these, the bringing a children instantly to the screen. However, the film comedic tone often clash with the gore's managed pressure undermined his the gravity. The lack of screen time, the greatly hamper gross impact, the characters philosopher clean with the thought with the could have the providing a profound narrative was the reduced to the surface level interactions bably. The lack of screen time, the greatly hampered gore impact, the characters Lucifer clean with the Thor, which could have the providing native, was reduced the surface level interactions bably performance hinted at a truly terrifying credentials of the core, but the script did not give him enough room to fully explore the role, considering Bally talent and the character's significance in the comic role. Portial in the MCU feel like a massive missed opportunity. Fandral, one of the Warrior Three, was played by the Joshua Dales in the Thor and the later recast with the Zecher's life in Thor. The Dark World deposit the character's swag-packing charm and the potential for the comic. Fandral was the briefly giving and screen time after the first movie alongside the other Warrior Three. Fandral appeared in the Dark World, proving one of the movie's few good jokes, but then they promptly fade into the background. This was the exacerbated in Thor Ragnarok, where the Fenrir was killed off the casually by the Hela without a single line of the dialogue. For a characters with the roots in the Guardian's mythology and a vibrant personality in the comic, Fenrir treatment in the MCU completely squandering him. Both the Dallas and the Levy and he the charisma to make Fenrir a memorable figure, but the film never allowed him the chance to shine. Alexton Michelin and the Ecorite, the Dark Aleph antagonist in the Thor. The Dark World is often regarded as one of the MCU weakest villain. Deposit the acclaim talent and the character's rich history in the comic Malekith was the reduced to a one-dimensional villain with the unclear motivations. The film failed to delve into the Malekith tragic backstory of his the enmity with the Asgard, instead opting for an the generating revenge plot. Malekith visual deposit and the ability hinted at the more formidable few, but his the lack of the meaningful dialogues or the development made him the forgettable even Eklon himself expressed Frenchie's witty role, highlighting the wasted potential of both the characters and the actor. In a franchise known for its the memorable Wilson, Malik stand out as an example of how poor writing and the underdeveloped storytelling can the utility ways and the iconic Marvel characters. Lady Sif, played by the Jamie Alexander, started as a strong and the capable warrior in Thor, with her the close ties to Thor and her the prominent role in the Asgard defense. she was set up as a central figure in the franchise. However, her characters were largely sidelined in the subsequent film. After her strong introduction in the first Thor, she presents dementia signification. She was absent entirely from the Thor Ragnarok, with only a brief explanation that she was offered. This intentionally seemed like she was the spare halo were to return in the further projects. However, her return in the Loki and the Thor Love and the Thunder felt like an afterthought, reducing her to the Hammer's combo. The fact that the latter joke about the shift not making it to be the Asgarding afterlife was the particle scaling and not betifying. Jamie Alexander talent and the Steve potential as a complex and a powerful ally to Thor deserve as more attention in the MCU. Hogan and other the member of the Warrior there was the play by the Tendo as known for his the static demotor and the combat powers. Hongo had the potential to add depth and the diversity to the Thor films. However, like the Fandrels, his role after the first movie was the minimal and his characters were the underexplored. Deposit is the instructation presence and the unique fighting styles. Hongo really and the meaningful dialogues or the moments to shine. Hongo fairly slightly better than this the commander in Thor rank Oak, surviving just on enough to demonstrate some fighting skills and have a rushing moments of defiance before his the unceremonious death. For and the actor of the essence talent and a characters with such a distinct identity, the lack of the magnificent material for the Hyun was a significant impasse. He could have been a standout figure in the Thor franchise, but instead he the remembered as another wasted opportunity. The introduction of the brief call stints he Hercules in the mid-credit scenes of the Thor Love and the Thunder Spark considered estimate that the classic Avengers would finally appear in the MCU. Hercules is a major figure in the Marvel comic, known for his the rivalry and the eventually characters with the Thor. Goldstein appearance teased a conversation with the Thor sent on a mission of the revenge by his father Zeus. Year later, this still has not been the fulfilled. Her close post-credit scenes in the Thor Love and the Thunders hinted at a future's conflict between Hercules and the Thor between no follow-up, yet the announced it remains unclear if this will coming to the frustrations. Giving Goldstein charisma and the character's rich history, it's the presumed to be more than a fleeting cameo. Hercules' inclusions in the MCU has the potential to the explore fascinating dynamic and the dams, but whatever this will happen is uncertain. Ray Stephens' Wall Stage, the jewel and the larger-than-life member of the Warrior there, brought Hammer and the heart of the first two Thor films as a loyal ally to Thor. Wall Stage had the potential to be the both a source of the comic relief and the deeply resonated characters. However, like the and the Hugan Wall Stage role soon become minimal. His the death in the Thor Ragnarok alongside the Fandrels was the abrupt and the unceremonious, further highlighting how the franchise treats sporting characters as disposable. Deposit Ray Stephens' engaging performance Wall Stage where he had the chance to shine beyond a few brief moments of the hammer in the widely derided Thor. The Dark World for a characters as the befriend and beloved a Wall State. This was the significant disappointment. Stephen Portia deserved more meaningful material and his character's potential as both a comic heroic figure was sadly wasted. Jeff Goldblum, Grandmaster was a scenes. Stalin in the thought Ragnarok writing his the trademark essentially to the role of the Shaker. With his unique blend of the hammer and the mance, the Grandmaster was a fascinating addition to the MCU. However, his role in the film was the largely super financial. With the gold bump, committing presence fit the film tones. It's the overshadow the character's potential as a multiple and the dangerous finger. With the Grandmaster fate left unconfirmed at the end of the Thor Ragnarok, it seems like the could returns in the MCU further his history as one of the elders of the universe and his the potential for the causing chaos across the universe, and his the convention to other comic behind remains unexplored. Of course, Goldblum's performance was the memorable, but the character's limited role in the Thor Ragnarok feels like a missed opportunity to expand the MCU comic mythology. Another Hopping brought Graving to the role of the Odin, the All-Father of the Asgard in the first two Thor films. Odin's wisdoms and the complex relationship with the son set up a rich narrative in Thor. Audience action drove much of the plot, and here's the dynamic that the Thor and the Loki added depth to the story. However, the Odin role determined significance in Thor Ragnarok. His the death-filled Rashid surviving more as a plot device to set up Hela's arrive than a meaningful consolation to his the Eric. Moreover, for an the actor of the hopping caliber, it seems like a waste to the just dress him and have him the short a bite. Hopping himself made his the circums. Nothing that he did not really have to do any acting for a characters and the providence and the Odin, a proper exploration of his the backstory, his the struggle as a roller, and his the connection to the Asgard history would have made a compelling addition to the Thor movie. 2011 cast. Where are they now? The first Thor movie boasted a star-studded cast, combined remained Hollywood a lister where the barging future stars appearing in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Passage 1 2011 Thor introduced Chris Hemsworth Thor into the MCU timeline along with a slew of the other beloved characters included Tom Hiddleston's Loki and the Endens Hepco Ordens. Each cast member has the continued to thrive in the industry working constancy in the year since. Chris Hemsworth Thor quickly became a ministry in the MCU after his debut in the Thor 2011, appearing in the each Avengers movie and the generating and impress four solo movies. An MCU first, Thor is accepted to returns in the MCU furthers and the Hemsworth has expressed and the interest in the MCU Thor 5 should the materials of the characters sufficient other Thor characters. However, they been far less lucky with the majority of them trying in the Thor sequel or the other MCU projects. Chris Hemsworth's portrayal of the Thor in 2011 Marvel film marked a significant breakthrough in his career, established him as a prominent actor in the Hollywood. His the charismatic performance as the Norse god of the thunder generated whispered acclaim and the cemented his the status within the MCU. Hemsworth blend of the charm state and the voluntary brought depth to the characters, completely evolved the characters throughout the franchise. Hemsworth remains a dynamic force in the entertainment industry in 2023. He started in and produced Explanations 2, the sequel to his 2020 thriller actions in 2024 Hemsworth. Hemsworth remains a dynamic force in the entertainment industry in 2023. He started in and produced Extractions 2, the sequel to his the 2020 action thriller. In 2024, Hemsworth starred as the Demands in the Furious, a Mad Max saga. This role in the highly anticipated prequel to Mad Max Fury Road promised to be the another thrilling addition to his the Devastator's filmography. Subsequently, Hemsworth voice options prime in the animated movie Transformers 1. Natalie Portman played Jenna Frosters in Thor 2011, a brilliant astrophysicist who became Thor love instant. Portman's performance brought a sense of the installment charm to the characters, making Jenna a pivotal part of the story and Thor's journey on the Earth. In 2022, she reprised her role in Thor, Love and Thunder, transforming into the majority Thor and the wedding Mjolnir. This role marked a significant evolution for her characters and was her final appearance in the MCU. In 2021, Portman founded her productions company, Mountain A, their first projects We May, December, a dark comedy drama with the she started in and the executive. 2021, Portman funded her productions company Mountain E. There the first project was May December, a dark comedy drama which she started in and executed produced in 2024. Mountain A produced the main series The Lady in the Lake for the Apple TV Plus, in which the Portmans appear alongside Julian Maury. Portman also appeared in the animated adaptations of the Roald Dahl, the tweet scheduled for release in the 2025. Tom the Hiddleston's performance as the Loki in Thor 2011 was so tournaments. The characters quickly become a franchise mainstay, portraying the complex and the massive adopt brother of the Thor. Hiddleston's performance captured Loki, internal conflict charm, and the cunning, making him one of the most compelling villains in the MCU. His portrayal was widely acclaimed, earning a two-season main series and one of the greatest MCU legacies. Hiddleston remains and the acting heavyweight, appearing in the television series, movie, and theaters in 2024. Hiddleston starred in a cinematic adaptation of the Stephen King novel The Life of the Chunk with the Mark Hamill and the MCU alumnia Keir Gillian. In 2022, Hiddleston appeared in the Apple TV Plus Gothic Main Streets, The Axis Band, and the narrative two of the Apple's wildlife documentaries in 2023 and 2024. In 2023, Hiddleston's performance at the National Theatres of the Great Britain in the Poetry for the Everyday of the Year and the Hair Survival Projects in the works for the 2025 and the beyond. Stellan Skarsgård played Dr. the Eric Sleven in the Thor 2011, playing a brilliant astrophysicist and the mentor to the Natalie Portman's Jenna Foster's Skarsgård's portrayal of the slave, providing a ground counterbalance to the film mythological element. His performance as well received, leading to his the continued involvement in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, included appearance in the Avengers and the Thor: The Dark World. As a profile and the highly regarded actor, Skarsgård continued to the captive audience with the deserves role. Since 2022, he started as the Luthien in the Star Wars series Andor, a prequel to Rogue One, man, while in 2024, Skarsgård perhaps his role as the Baron Wildmere, known in the Dune. Part 2 following his the chilling performance in the first installment of the Denis Villeneuve's adaptation of the iconic sci-fi novel. Play the role of the Darcy Lewis in the Thor 2011. She delivered a memorable performance as the quickly and the witty political scenes. Major Woody assists Jenna Foster's and the Dr. Eric Alavic, her comedic time and the charismatic presence, providing much needed levity and the film more serious moments, making her a standout character. Dining's perhaps her role as the Darcy and the MCU Thor Love and the Thunder, WandaVisions, and in the animated series What If for two episodes in 2021 and 2023. Additionally, Dinah's voice Les Preach in the Netflix animated comedy Big Mouth from the 2017 until. Dinings reprised her role as the Density in the MCU Thor Love and the Thunders, WandaVisions, and in the animated series What If for two episodes in 2021 and 2023. Additionals, Dining voice length Preach in the Netflix animated comedy Big Mouth from the 2017 until 2020. Subsequently, Denning started in the horror comedy series Dollface, which the era from the 2019-2022. In November 2023, Dennings married Message Andrew Wiki and has no acting credit for the 2024. Colm Fury played the Freshman King, Luffy in Thor, the leader of the Forest Giants, and Loki's biological father. His the portrayal of the Luffy was chilling and the authoritative, writing and the especially meaning presence to the characters. Free performance contributed to the tensions and the dynamic sake in the film, making Luffy a memorable antagonist from the early Marvel Cinematic Universe. Colm Few continued to enjoy a full career in the both film and the television, he is widely recognized for his role as Sir Regards, aggressive in the popular Netflix series The Umbrella Academy. Colin Fury continued to enjoy a fruitful career in the both film and the television. He is widely recognized for his role as the Sir Regards Hargreaves in the popular Netflix series The Umbrella Academy, which has been praised for its the unique take on the superhero genre. Force portrayal of the Strannik and the engaging portrayal has earned him the considerable acclaim, with the show final season releasing in the August 2024. Hamidus, the all-seeing, all-hearing Guardians of the Bifrost Breach was the play in the MCU by Idris Elba. His the stock and the powerful performance brought gravitas and the identity to the characters, making the Hamdals and the key figure in the Asgard's defense. Elba Hamdals appear in the each Thor movie and the Survival Thor MCU projects. Elba remains a prominent figure in the entertainment industry, known for his the variety across various genres. In addition to his the live action role, Elba has ventured into voice acting. Her voice gone on in the Sonic and the he voice gone on in the Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Alba remains a paramount figure in the entertainment industry, where slightly across various genres. In addition to his the live action role, Alba has vented into his acting. He was Gank in the Sonic the Hedgehog. He voiced Gankless in the Sonic the Hedgehog. He voiced Gankless in the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 2022. Alba is the repairing the role for the Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and a solo main series. Cakeless in the 2024, Alba released the song Kevin's Town featuring UK Repair DC. Kevin's Town featuring UK Repairs DB Mess as a part of his the campaign against gay knife crime in the UK. Gemini Alexander Portial Lady Sif in the Thor. The fries and the loyal as the Guardian's warrior, her portrayal of the Sif, a close ally of the Thor, was marked by the strength, bravery, and a strong sense of the duty. Alexander reprised her role as the Lady Sif in the Thor, The Dark World, and the Thor, Love and the Thunder, where her characters met a target and the ending a protagonist's conclusions to Steve's journey in the MCU. Outside the Marvel Universe, Alexander had a significant role in the NBC crime drama Blind Straw from the 2015 to 2020. Her performance was central to the show's success, showcasing her range and depth as the actress. In 2022, Alexander appeared alongside Morgan Freeman in the thriller The Maintain You Woke Up Dead, further demonstrating her versatility. Outside the Marvel Universe, Alexander had a significant role in the NBC crime drama Blind Spot from the 2025 to 2022. Her performance was the central to the show's success, showcasing her range and the depth as an actress. In the 2022, Alexander appeared alongside Morgan Freeman in the thriller The Minute You Woke Up Dead, further demonstrating her versatility. Rani Rosso played the voice and the composition queen of the Asgard in 2011 Thor as Thor and the Loki mothers, her characters providing the movie emotional core and also a regal sensibility. Rosso repaired her role in Thor, The Dark World, where her character's tragic death was a significant moment in the Thor character's arc. She made a surprise return in the Avengers Endgame during that time, Hested providing a touching renew with the Thor and the offering cruel guidance. As of the 2024 Avengers Endgame was the Russian last acting credit, but she has enjoyed a celebrated career. In 2014, Russo appeared in the critical acclaimed Nightcrawler, delivering a powerful performance that earned her the significant Paris and the accolades. She continued to showcase her versatility to 2009 Velvet Buzzsaw, where she played a prominent role alongside Jack Gallan. Anthony Hopkins memorable played the MCU Odin to life in the Thor and its sequel. Hopkins portrayed the powerful and the wise king of the Asgards, with the Amazons gravitating entering the mythological elements of the storm with his the commanding presence and the Famiable's acting legacy. Hopping Odin in the figure of the authorities and the compassions, both decisions and the acting significations impact the film narrating and characters development. To be one of the world's most celebrated actors in 2023, he started his one life, a biopic that chronicles the heroic efforts of the Sir Nicholas Ventons during World War II, and The Fraud Last Sessions, a drama exploring the imagined meeting between Seymour Freud and the C.S. Lewis. Additionally, Hopkins voiced the characters Jimmy in the Zack Center Rebel Moon movie in 2023 and 2024. In 2024, Hopkins also appeared in the historical epic series Thor's About to Die. Ray Stephens was staged. The Thor was assumed throughout Thor 2011 and instead Thor The Dark World and Thor Ragnarok by the Warrior 3. Ray Stephens played the Biostress and the brutal wall stage, ultimately drawing protecting Asgard in the Ragnarok. Stephen was also known for playing Frank Castle in The Preacher. Warzone in 2008. Tragically, Stephens passed away in May 2023. His The Postman final performance were in the action series and the unrealistic historical epic 1224 Gateway to the Waste. Tadanobu Asno-Huygens. Tadanobu Asno-Huygens played the second member of the Warriors 3. The Grim Warrior Hong Kong as known is the highly regarded Japanese actor and the director with an award-winning career. Wano received particles praise for his role as Sakishing's Yelbishing in 2024 Shogun. While the maintaining his the political movie career in the Japan, as known is also repairing his role as the Raiden in 2025 Mortal Kombat 2. Josh Dallas Ventrals. Josh Dallas played Ventrals, the final member of the Warrior 3 in the Thor. Dallas opted for a Swiss-speaking charming tone for the characters, however the role was recast in the subsequent Thor sequel due to the Dallas scheduling conflict. Since his time in the MCU, Dallas has achieved significant success, including starting as Ben Stone in the popular TV series Man Steve, which the aired from the 2018 to 2023. Clark Creek built the Constellations. Clark Creek reprised his role as the Agent's Phil Conclusions in Thor, surviving as the first vital link between the Warriors Marker cinematic universe movie. The SHIELD agent was the lock for his the climb, demonter and the driver, playing a key role in the connection superhero to the agency and the adding in Thor. Protagonist Creek appeared in 2024 comedy movie Thelms and has a recurring role in the television series Criminal Mind Elevations. Stanley, truck driver, the iconic Marvel writer Stanley made a memorable cameo as a truck driver in the 2011 Henry attempting to more. Iconic Marvel warrior Stanley made a memorable cameo as a truck driver in Thor 2011, humorously adapting to more Thor Fallen Hammer. Moshler Lee became well known for his the cameo appearance, often appearing in any Marvel movie based on his character's Lee, who passed away in 2018, is celebrated as the iconic face of the Marvel comic, leaving an the indelible market on the popular culture. His the cameo service as the tribute to his the enduring legacy and the conversation with the Marvel fans worldwide. The cast Thor 2011 was a thrilling combination of acting legacy and the younger star destined from the same. This the undoubtable contribute to the movie's success, which the itself promised their more solo motions. While many of these stars are no longer affiliated with the MCU, with the role in Thor will be the remembered as well compound of the franchise. Thor the first in a line of the four superhero film to be the release is the summer. Bang into theater is the weekend and the enjoyable. In the enjoyable thunderous debut, The 3D movie about the Norse god pounded the competitions, grossing a solid $66 million according to an estimated from the distributor Paramount Pictures. The other two new films in the wide release were the both romantic comedy about the wedding, and the neither could attract nearly as many moviegoers as Thor. Jumping the Brom about two families from the different backgrounds. Conversations at a wedding collected a decent $30.7 million. Some Things Proverb, based on the Henry Caffin's best-selling novel of the same name, had a softer $30.2 million take. Overseas, the Fast Five expand from the 42-44 foreign markets and rank in the Panama's $86.6 million in the Brazil, where is it set the movie Paramite at the number one, taking in the $5 million. Its the currently international total is the already near $200 million at the $184.8 million. Following the movie, Thor was the second big budget studio release in a summer that the many in the industry hope will help relieve what has been a black year at the box office. The combinations of these two, it is at the moment a little easy to take for granted just how authentic the success of the Marvel Cinematic Universe has become over the years. It's amazing that the externals by for the worst review movie in the history of the franchise still managed to cross $400 million worldwide last year, even deposit the box office recovery still having nearly reached its full potentials, and that's bad result for the Marvel studio at this point. Yet Captain America the First Avenger was considered a decent success, taking in the $317.5 million back in the 2011. The point is, we have come and the awful long way, and the with release of success taking in the $370.5 million back in 2011. The point is, we have come and the awful long way, and with the release of Thor Love and the Thunder this weekend, that has become evident. The fourth solo Thor flick is going to easily pass competitions at the box office in its opening weekend and will rank as one of the biggest opening weekends since pandemic began, being even more than Thor Ragnarok did back in 2017. All of his due to say it's amazing what relatively can to do for the perspectives. To that end, 2011 Thor was for some the granted success at the time, even with the MCU being to take shape as some things moviegoers credit about, not only because we weren't dealing with an list superhero at the end anyway, but becomes blockbuster fantasy movie simply did have a great legacy of the success, and while Thor is the primarily less superhero at the time anyway, but because blockbuster fantasy movie simply did not have a great legacy of the success, and while Thor is the primarily a superhero movie, is it also much a very fancy film. Today, in honor of the release of Love and the Thunders, we are going to look back at the original Thor, how it came to be, how the MCU allow his the fancy film discard as a superhero flick to the bosom, and what lesson we might be able to learn from in the modern context. Let's get in the shall we? In the early days of Marvel Studio, the company had to make do with what it had. Woman Iron Man came out in 2008. It was all about trying to make the best movie possible with the characters that they were not necessarily as popular in the mainstream at the time. This is because many characters that the Marvel had the previously listened to another studio during the financial hardship were the still elsewhere. The X-Men and the Fantastic Four were at Fox, Spider-Man was the and still is at the Sony, and the Universal still has the rights to make solo Hulk film. The list goes on. As such, the ideas was the headish to take the pieces on the board and build to some things that could make for an Alice event in the form of the Avengers. To do that, the various individual film franchises would need to be the laugh and success on their own before the groundbreaking blockbuster cover cross even could happen in 2012. Iron Man and the Incredible Hulk got things started in 2008 with the Iron Man 2 bring as the Black Widow and the Nick Fury in 2010. Thor was then set to follow in 2011 with the Captain America with the Captain America the first Avenger surviving as the final piece of the puzzle later that summer. But first, the God of the Thunder needed his day in the sun. Even though other filmmakers had tried to get a Thor film going over the years, included none other than Sam Raimi, it was the ultimately came brain no for films like The Mary Shelley, Frank Steeson, and The Much Ado About Nothing, who won the job. As far as casting goes, Marvel cast a wide net. Even though other filmmakers had tried to get a Thor film going over the years, included none other than the same Raimi, it was ultimately Kent Bang, no for the films like The Marischal, Frank Steeson, and Much Ado About Nothing, who won the job. As far as the casting goes, Marvel cast a wide net that included Lima Hemsworth, the younger brother of the Cherish Hemsworth, who ultimately landed the big, a different king of the superhero tally. The thing about Thor is that it was always going to are practically different than the other superhero films that were having success at the time. The Norse mythological that the ultimately inspired Stan Lee and Steve Ditko in creating the comic is rooted in some of the oldest fantasy storytelling the world has to offer. This was about the further things from the Batman or the Spider-Man that one could imagine now. It did hurt that the supporting cast was the stake is the actor like the Natalie Portman and the Anthony Hopkins as well as then the relatively unknown Tom Hiddleston who would go on to steal the show as Loki steals the Marvel and the brand were going to be the focus to the continue with a genre that the historical speaking was a recap for the failure. It is the worth remembering that in 2011 very few films outside of the Lord of the Rings trilogy and the Harry Potters had success in the big budget fantasy realm. More often than not they bomb the part of what made Lord of the Rings such a huge gamble in the first place. For example, the same year Thor was released in 2011, Canon the Guardians remake absolutely taking earning just $63 million worldwide against $90 million budgets hack. Even Hemsworth on the Hestman Winter War would go on to collect a destructive $164 million against a $150 million budget in 2016. Fancy, unlike the sci-fi, was not necessary fertile ground for the success in the Hollywood. And honestly, it still largely is not yet thanks to the unaccepted success of the Iron Man and the Iron Man 2 the MCU. Yet think to the unaccepted success of the Iron Man and Iron Man 2 the MCU was already gaining popularity and the audience were aware that the Avengers was set to the follow in 2012, not so much to degree that it is now, but even then these were becoming must-seen events for the moviegoers who might no otherwise have credit. As a result, this film that seemingly had so many iffy ingredients become and the unlikely early hit for the Marvel studio. Thor helped to kick off the summer season on May 6, 2011. It did so with a pretty solid bang, taking in the $65.7 million on its opening weekend, good enough for the number on the spot, besting Universal Fast 5, which was earning its second weekend. The film held reasonable well in the coming weeks, setting it up for a nice dramatic then that concluded in late August. All told, the fourth MCU flick earned $181 million domestic and the $268.2 million internationally for a grand total of the $449.3 million against a reported $150 million production budget. Now, by the current MCU standard, that the number does not look all that great, but that fact a state a fantasy film led by a then largely unknown actor managed to make three times its the production budget while other huge hits the like Parrots, the contributions on the Stranger Start and The Hangover Part 2 were in theaters is the impressive considering that the God of the Thunder and nothing else for the general public to latch onto at that time. This movie was able to sell itself, especially when they concluded with the promise of some things bigger to come the following summer. It's all worth potential out that Thor earned a reported $95 million from the Blu-ray and the DVD sales, illustrated that the market from the necessary revenge was the much better even a decade ago. This success is written help set by the Avengers for a record-breaking run in 2012, as well as Thor become a big hit the solo franchise in its the own right, with the series recently crossing the 2 billion market worldwide thanks to the early return from the Love and the Thunders. Not only that, but the Hemsworth hammer swimming could become the first MCU hero to have 4 solo movies under his belt. All of that springs from a comparatively humble fantasy superhero flick that the provided the MCU could safely explore different genre on its way to become an the all encompassing multimedia behemoth. The legend continue within. The early days of the MCU are in some ways a masterclass in how to build a plot of the god weight with the movie going public in an age when the franchise and the IP are everything for the studio and the streaming service. It's worth looking back at the movie like Thor which the embrace what made the characters and the enduring figure in the comic for the decide before he was every part of a major motion picture. Taika Waititi would the brightly revamp this the Particles franchise with the irreverent Strangog in 2017. But the Brang's first film deserved credit for the being earnest and the embarrassing the characters that was on the page. You can't really get to that fun revelation without first having the classic version of the characters on screen. Thor as well as Iron Man and the Captain America the first Avenger fully embrace the spirit of the character as they were. Understanding the Marvel comic has been the telling great stories for decide if that the speech could be the capture in a new medium. It's stand to reason that the movie journals, movie course, right, response to the material. At the same time, the studio managed to place fans who had been embarrassing these characters for years, who perhaps never thought they would see Loki and the Hexkey as part of a big budget Hollywood blockbuster as franchise and the IP continue to get recycled by the everyone out there the making content. It's worth remembering this the simple lesson do right by the characters. I mean we have here Sony plans to make some pretty radical change to Craven for it's the Craven the Hunter movie. Is that the good idea? Time will tell, but that's exactly the sort of things I am thinking about. Why bother making a Deadpool movie if you can't let Deadpool be the Deadpool X-Men Origins? Warner felt Deadpool did not the success and the pay the vote for the something bigger by the being faithfully to the what made the comic great. That's not to say the adaptation need to be the as slavishly devoted to the source material as the something like the Zack Snyder Watchmen movie, but don't run away from the word on the page. That's why HBO Watchmen show works so well. It's the managed to honor what came before while feeling true that the hugely important source material. This to me is a lesson in the success of the Thor and the MCU in the journal.